The gunshot echoing across the prairie was what finally broke Zara Cunningham's resolve to stay with Roy Blackwell, the father of her unborn child. Blood pooled around the lifeless body of a local rancher who had simply refused to pay Roy protection money for his cattle. And Zara knew she had to flee before the same violence turned toward her and the baby growing inside her. It was 1878, in the wind-swept plains of Wyoming territory, when Zara packed her meager belongings in the dead of night. 6 months pregnant and terrified, she slipped away from the small cabin she had shared with Roy for nearly a year, leaving behind the man whose charming smile had once captivated her, but whose true nature had slowly revealed itself through increasingly brutal outbursts. 3 days of hard travel later, she stumbled into the small settlement of Riverbank, her dress caked with dust, her water canteen empty, and her hope nearly extinguished. The town wasn't much a general store, a saloon, a small church, and scattered houses, but to Zara, it represented safety. "You look like you could use some help, madam," came a deep voice as Zara nearly collapsed in front of the general store. Strong hands steadied her, and she looked up into the concerned eyes of a tall man whose weathered face suggested years under the prairie sun. "I'm fine," she insisted weakly, though the trembling in her legs betrayed her. "No disrespect intended, madam, but you're about to fall over, and in your condition, that wouldn't be good for either of you." His eyes briefly glanced at her swollen belly before returning respectfully to her face. "Name's Reese Quincy. I own the ranch just outside of town." Zara hesitated, fear making her wary of any man's kindness, but something in his steady gaze reassured her. "Zara Cunningham," she finally replied. "Miss Cunningham, let me help you to Doc Wilson's. He can make sure you and your little one are all right." Too exhausted to argue, Zara nodded, allowing Reese to guide her down the dusty street. What she didn't realize was that this simple act of kindness would be the first of many from the quiet rancher with gentle hands and a resolute spirit, Dr. Wilson, a gray-haired man with kind eyes, examined Zara with professional efficiency while his wife, Martha, stood by with water and clean towels. "You're dehydrated and exhausted, young lady, but the baby seems strong. What brings you to Riverbank in this condition and all alone?" The doctor asked, his tone curious but not judgmental, Zara's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for days. "I had to leave. The baby's father, he's not a good man." Martha's hand found Zara's, squeezing gently. "You're safe here, dear." Reese, who had been waiting outside, stepped in after receiving a nod from the doctor. "Doc, she needs a place to stay." "The boarding house is full with those railroad surveyors," Martha said, frowning. "I have a spare room at my ranch," Reese offered, then quickly added, "My housekeeper, Mrs. Abernathy, is there. She's been with me for years. You'd be proper and safe, Miss Cunningham." Zara studied him, searching for any sign of deception or ulterior motives, finding none. Still, she hesitated. "I don't want to be a burden." "No burden. I could use the help around the house if you're willing. Mrs. Abernathy's getting on in years. You can earn your keep until—" He trailed off, not wanting to presume her plans, "until the baby comes," Zara finished for him. "I don't know what I'll do then." "One day at a time," Reese said simply. "We can figure it out as we go." That afternoon, Reese's wagon carried Zara to his modest but well-maintained ranch 5 miles outside of town. The main house was nothing grand: 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a small parlor, but it was clean and sturdy. Mrs. Abernathy, a stout woman with silver hair and a no-nonsense attitude, welcomed Zara with surprising warmth. "About time this house had a young woman in it," she declared, showing Zara to a small but comfortable bedroom. "Mr. Quincy works from sunup to sundown. Man needs something besides cattle and horses to care about." "Mrs. Abernathy," Reese warned from the doorway, his face slightly flushed. "Miss Cunningham is here to rest and recover." "Of course she is," the older woman replied with a knowing smile that made Zara blush despite herself. Over the next few weeks, Zara settled into life at the Quincy Ranch. True to her word, she helped with household tasks that weren't too strenuous for her condition, mending clothes, preparing meals with Mrs. Abernathy, and keeping the accounts, which she discovered she had a talent for. Reese was gone most days, working with his small crew of ranch hands, but in the evenings, they would often sit on the porch, watching the sun set over the distant mountains. He never pressed her for details about her past or the father of her child, and Zara was grateful for his discretion. One evening, as they shared a pot of coffee, hers decaffeinated at Mrs. Abernathy's insistence, Zara finally opened up. "His name is Roy Blackwell. I met him when he came through my hometown in Colorado. He was charming, handsome, full of stories about his adventures. I was 19 and sheltered. My father was the town preacher, strict and unyielding." She paused, remembering. Roy seemed like freedom. Reese listened silently, his face revealing nothing. "We ran away together. I thought it was romantic." Zara's laugh was bitter. "It didn't take long to see who he really was. A thief, a cheat, and worse, but by then I was too ashamed to go home, especially after I found out about the baby." "What made you leave him?" Reese asked quietly. Zara's hands trembled slightly. "He killed a man, shot him in cold blood over money. And the way he looked afterward, like it meant nothing. I knew then that my baby deserved better, that I deserved better." Reese nodded slowly. "You were brave to leave." "I was terrified," Zara admitted. "Still am if Roy finds me." "He won't," Reese said, his voice suddenly hard with conviction. "And if he does, he'll have to go through me first." The words hung in the air between them, a promise Zara hadn't asked for but desperately needed to hear. As her pregnancy progressed, Zara's fear of Roy finding her began to take a backseat to her growing affection for Reese. He was everything Roy wasn't: honest, dependable, kind. He never raised his voice, never made her feel small or afraid. Instead, he seemed to see strength in her that she hadn't known existed. When Zara was 8 months along, Reese brought her a cradle he'd been building in secret. The wood was smooth and polished, with intricate carvings of wildflowers along the sides. "It's beautiful," Zara whispered, running her fingers over the delicate workmanship. "You didn't have to, I wanted to," Reese interrupted gently. "Every child deserves a safe place to sleep." Tears welled in Zara's eyes. "You've done so much for me, for us. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." Reese's hand covered hers where it rested on the cradle. "Seeing you safe and happy is payment enough." Their eyes met, and for a moment Zara thought he might kiss her. Part of her wanted him to, a realization that both thrilled and frightened her. But Reese stepped back, always the gentleman. "I should check on the horses," he said, clearing his throat. "Supper's at 6, like always." As he left, Zara placed a hand on her rounded belly, feeling the baby kick beneath her palm. "What do you think, little one?" she whispered. "Is it too soon to be feeling this way about someone new?" The baby kicked again as if in answer, and Zara smiled through her tears. The birth came unexpectedly during a spring thunderstorm that shook the windows of the ranch house. Mrs. Abernathy took charge while Reese rode through the downpour to fetch Dr. Wilson. By the time they returned, soaked to the skin, Zara's labor was well advanced. "You're doing wonderfully, Miss Cunningham," Dr. Wilson assured her after examining her. "Not long now." Reese paced outside her door, flinching at every cry of pain. Mrs. Abernathy bustled between the kitchen and bedroom, carrying hot water and clean linens. "Sit down before you wear a hole in my floor," she scolded Reese. "Women have been having babies since the beginning of time." "But it's Zara," he said simply, as if that explained everything. Mrs. Abernathy's expression softened. "You care for her." It wasn't a question, but Reese answered anyway. "More than I should, probably." "There's no should when it comes to matters of the heart," the older woman said wisely. "Just what is." A particularly loud cry from the bedroom sent Reese to his feet again. But before he could resume his pacing, a new sound filled the house, the thin, angry wail of a newborn taking its first breath. "You can come in now, Mr. Quincy," Dr. Wilson called after several minutes. Reese entered the bedroom to find Zara propped against pillows, her face exhausted but radiant, cradling a small bundle wrapped in a soft blanket. "It's a girl," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "A perfect little girl." Reese approached cautiously, peering down at the tiny, red-faced infant. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "Just like her mother." Zara blushed, but her smile didn't falter. "I'm naming her Hope, because that's what she's given me." "It's a fine name," Reese agreed, his voice rough with feeling. Over the next few weeks, Reese proved himself to be as helpful with the baby as he had been during Zara's pregnancy. He never complained about being woken by Hope's cries in the night, often insisting that Zara rest while he walked the colicky infant up and down the hallway, humming old trail songs until she settled. Watching him with her daughter, Zara felt the walls around her heart crumbling. She was falling in love with this quiet, steadfast man who had asked for nothing but had given everything. One afternoon, as Zara hung laundry while Hope napped in her cradle nearby, she spotted a rider approaching from the direction of town. As the figure drew closer, her blood turned to ice. Even at a distance, she recognized the cocky way he sat a horse, the distinctive hat he wore. Roy Blackwell had found her. Zara snatched Hope from her cradle and ran for the house, her heart pounding. Mrs. Abernathy took one look at her face and understood immediately. "Take the baby upstairs," the older woman instructed calmly. "I'll handle this." "No," Zara said, surprising herself with her steadiness. "I need to face him, just keep Hope safe for me." Reluctantly, Mrs. Abernathy took the sleeping infant, disappearing upstairs as a horse's hooves thundered into the yard. "Zara," Roy's voice called out, that familiar blend of charm and menace that had once fooled her. "I know you're in there, darlin'. Come on out and see me." Taking a deep breath, Zara stepped onto the porch. Roy sat on his horse, looking much as she remembered, handsome in a rough way, with dark eyes that could go from laughing to lethal in an instant. "Hello, Roy," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "There's my girl," he grinned, swinging down from his saddle. "Been looking all over for you. That wasn't very nice, running off without saying goodbye." "I'm not your girl anymore, Roy. I haven't been for a long time." His smile slipped just a fraction. "Is that right? And what about my child?" "Is my son not mine either?" "Daughter," Zara corrected. "And she deserves better than what you could give her." Roy's face darkened, and he took a step toward the porch. "You don't get to decide that. You and the baby are coming with me." "No, we're not." Zara stood her ground, though inside she was trembling. "I wasn't asking," Roy snarled, his hand moving to the gun at his hip. "Neither was she," came Reese's voice as he emerged from the barn, rifle in hand. He positioned himself between Roy and the porch. "I think you'd better leave, mister." Roy's eyes narrowed. "This isn't your business, Cowboy. Zara and Hope are under my protection," Reese said evenly. "That makes it my business." "Hope," Roy spat. "You named my kid my daughter," Zara corrected again, her courage bolstered by Reese's presence. "And yes, I named her." Roy's gaze flickered between them, a dangerous understanding dawning. "So that's how it is. You left me for this. Rancher?" He made the word sound like an insult. "I left you because you're a violent, selfish man who cares for nothing but himself," Zara said clearly. "Reese has shown me what a real man is." Roy's hand inched closer to his gun. "I'm not leaving without what's mine." "They're not yours," Reese said, his voice still steady but his eyes hard. "And if you touch that gun, you'll regret it." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Roy smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach his eyes. "This isn't over," he promised, backing toward his horse. "I'll be back. And next time your pet cowboy won't be around to protect you. I'll stand at your door every day if that's what it takes to keep you safe," Reese told Zara after Roy had ridden away, his promise disappearing into the distance. "You can't," Zara protested, though part of her desperately wanted him to. "He's dangerous. He'll kill you." "Better men than him have tried," Reese said grimly. "I'm not afraid of Roy Blackwell," but Zara was. That night after Hope was asleep in her cradle, Zara sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had long gone cold. "I should leave," she said when Reese joined her. As long as Hope and I are here, you're in danger. Running isn't the answer, Reese replied. He found you once. He could find you again, but here you have me, Mrs. Abernathy, friends in town who care about you. I can't ask you to risk your life for us. Reese reached across the table, taking her hand in his. You're not asking, I'm offering. He hesitated, then continued, his voice softer. Zara, these past months with you and Hope, they've been the happiest of my life. I know the timing is all wrong, and maybe I'm a fool for saying this now, but I love you, both of you. Zara's heart swelled, joy momentarily overshadowing her fear. I love you too, she whispered, the words coming easily because they were true. But that only makes me more afraid of what Roy might do. We'll face him together, Reese promised, raising her hand to his lips. And after that, if you'll have me, I'd like to make us a real family. Tears spilled down Zara's cheeks. You'd raise another man's child as your own. Hope stopped being another man's child the moment I held her, Reese said simply. She's yours, which makes her mine too in all the ways that matter. True to his word, Reese stood guard at the ranch for days, his rifle always within reach. He hired extra hands to watch the property at night, and whenever Zara went into town, he or one of his most trusted cowboys accompanied her. Roy made good on his threat, reappearing a week later. This time, he brought 2 rough-looking men with him. Told you I'd be back, he called from the edge of the property. Got tired of waiting for you to come to your senses, Zara. Reese stepped off the porch, positioning himself in front of the house where Zara stood with Hope in her arms. You were told to leave and not come back. 3 against 1, cowboy, Roy sneered. How do you like those odds? Better than you might think, came Sheriff Patterson's voice as he and 2 deputies emerged from the barn, guns drawn. Mr. Quincy sent word you might be causing trouble, Blackwell. Roy's face contorted with rage. This ain't over, actually, it is, the sheriff interrupted. Got a wanted poster with your name on it. Murder in Colorado, robbery in Montana. You've been busy. Roy's hand moved to his gun, but the sheriff was faster. Don't, he warned. I'd be happy to bring you in breathing, but it's not required. For a moment, it seemed Roy might risk it anyway. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. Well played, cowboy, he said to Reese. But remember this, she came to me willingly once. What makes you think she won't tire of playing house with you too? Because I know what love really is now, Zara called out, stepping forward despite Reese's protective gesture. What we had wasn't love, Roy, it was fear and control. I'll never make that mistake again. Something flickered in Roy's eyes, perhaps regret, perhaps just anger at being outmaneuvered. Then it was gone, replaced by his usual cold calculation as he raised his hands in surrender. This isn't the end, he said, as the sheriff's men disarmed him and his companions. For you it is, Sheriff Patterson replied. The reward says dead or alive, and Colorado's mighty eager to see justice done. You'll hang before winter. As the lawman led Roy and his companions away, Zara sagged against Reese, the tension of the past week finally catching up with her. Is it really over? She whispered. Reese wrapped his arms around her in Hope, holding them close. Yes, he assured her. He can't hurt you anymore. 2 months later, word reached Riverbank that Roy Blackwell had been tried and hanged in Denver for his crimes. Zara received the news with a complex mixture of relief, sadness for what might have been, and finally, closure on a clear autumn day with the aspen trees turning gold on the distant hillsides. Zara Cunningham became Zara Quincy in a simple ceremony at the Riverbank Church. Hope, now 6 months old and growing stronger by the day, watched from Mrs. Abernathy's arms, occasionally cooing as if in approval. I never thought I'd find happiness again, Zara told Reese that night as they sat on the porch of what was now truly their home. Especially not with a baby on the way and running from a man like Roy. Sometimes life's greatest blessings come disguised as our greatest challenges, Reese replied, his arm warm around her shoulders. I thank God every day that you found your way to Riverbank. To you, Zara corrected softly, leaning into his embrace. I found my way to you. Inside, Hope made a small noise in her sleep, and both new parents smiled at the sound. "I meant what I said that day," Reese murmured against Zara's hair. "I'd stand at your door every day for the rest of my life to keep you safe." "I know," Zara said, turning to face him, "but I don't need a protector anymore. I need a partner, a husband, a father for Hope and—" She placed her hand on her still flat stomach, "for this little one too." Reese's eyes widened in surprise, then crinkled with joy as he understood her meaning. "Really? When did you know?" "Dr. Wilson confirmed it yesterday," Zara said, her smile radiant in the fading light. "We'll welcome him or her in the spring." Reese pulled her close, his kiss full of promise and love. "A family," he whispered against her lips. "Our family." As darkness settled over the Wyoming prairie, Zara Quincy looked up at the stars appearing one by one in the vast sky. She had traveled a hard road to reach this moment, from a sheltered preacher's daughter to a frightened runaway, to a woman who had found the courage to build a new life. And alongside her, steady as the North Star, was Reese, the man who had promised to stand at her door every day, but who now stood beside her instead, facing whatever the future might bring together. Spring came to the Quincy ranch with new beginnings. The cattle gave birth to healthy calves, wildflowers carpeted the prairie in purple and gold, and Zara delivered a robust baby boy they named Thomas after Reese's father. Hope, now 14 months old and taking her first wobbling steps, regarded her little brother with solemn curiosity, occasionally patting his downy head with surprising gentleness. "She's going to be a wonderful big sister," Reese observed one evening as they watched Hope reading a picture book to the sleeping Thomas, her childish babble a language only she understood. "They'll look out for each other," Zara agreed, leaning against her husband's solid warmth. "The way you looked out for me," Reese pressed a kiss to her temple. "We look out for each other, that's what family does." Family, the word still filled Zara with wonder. After losing her own family through her choices, after fleeing from the false promise of one with Roy, she had found something genuine and lasting with Reese. As the years passed, the Quincy ranch prospered. Reese's careful management and Zara's sharp mind for business transformed it from a modest operation to one of the most successful in the territory. They added a larger wing to the house as their family grew to include another daughter, Emma, 3 years after Thomas. Hope blossomed into a spirited young girl with her mother's golden hair and a confidence that came from growing up secure in her parents' love. She never questioned why her last name was different from her siblings on the family Bible's records to her. Reese was simply Pa, the only father she had ever known. On Hope's 6th birthday, as the family celebrated with neighbors and friends from Riverbank, Reese presented his daughter with a special gift adoption papers, making official what had been true in their hearts since the beginning. "Hope Quincy," she read slowly, sounding out the words on the document. "That's me, it always has been," Reese assured her, kneeling to her level. "This just makes it official for everybody else." "Does this mean I'm really yours now?" Hope asked, her young face suddenly serious. "You've always been mine," Reese told her, his voice rough with emotion. "From the moment I first saw you." Hope threw her arms around his neck. "I love you, Pa." Across the yard, Zara watched, tears blurring her vision. Mrs. Abernathy, now moving more slowly but still an essential part of their household, handed her a handkerchief. "You did good, girl," the older woman said approvingly. "Found yourself a real man, not just the shell of one." "We found each other," Zara corrected gently, thinking of how far she had come from that frightened, pregnant young woman who had stumbled into Riverbank all those years ago. Sometimes at night, Zara would still wake suddenly, momentarily gripped by old fears. But Reese was always there, his steady breathing beside her a reminder that she was safe, that Roy was long gone, that the life they had built together was strong and real. On the 10th anniversary of their wedding, Reese took Zara back to the spot where he had first promised to stand at her door every day. The old porch had been replaced during one of their renovations, but the view of the rolling prairie remained the same. Do you ever regret it? Zara asked, voicing a question she had carried silently for years. Taking in a pregnant woman you didn't know, raising another man's child, standing against Roy when he came for us. Reese turned to her, his face weathered by years of sun and wind, but his eyes as clear and honest as the day they had met. Not for a single moment, he said. Everything good in my life came from that day you arrived in Riverbank. Even the danger, the worry, even that, he confirmed. Because it all led us here. He gestured to their home, to the ranch buildings, to the distant pastures where their cattle grazed, to this life we've built, to our children. As if summoned by his words, the sound of laughter floated up from the creek where Hope, Thomas, and Emma were playing under the watchful eye of their ranch hand, Miguel. We're blessed, Zara acknowledged, watching her children splash in the clear water. More than I ever thought possible. And we've earned it, Reese reminded her, taking her hand in his. Every bit of happiness we have we fought for. That night, after the children were asleep, Reese and Zara sat on their porch as they had done countless times before, watching the stars emerge above the Wyoming landscape they both loved. Thank you, Zara said suddenly, turning to her husband. For what? For standing at my door all those years ago. For not turning away when it would have been easier. For loving Hope as your own from the very beginning. Reese's smile was tender in the fading light. I meant every word I said back then. I'll stand at your door every day for the rest of my life. Not at my door, Zara corrected, echoing words she had spoken long ago. Beside me. Always, Reese promised, sealing his vow with a kiss that held the same reverence as their first. And as the night deepened around them, Zara Quincy rested in the certainty of a love that had been forged in fear, but had grown into something unbreakable, a love that would stand the test of time and be passed down to their children and their children's children, a legacy more valuable than all the gold in the West.